Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Abogo.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Shine Out Loud Show with me, Lillian Abogo, and it is another Wednesday, and we're here again. Now, I have an incredible young woman who is going to share with us. This woman is a writer and actress. She's actually produced and performed across the waters. She's done a lot of work here in the UK. She works internationally. She's an amazing actress and amazing writer. Please join me and welcome my incredible guest, Davina Cole. Hi, Davina.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's jump into it because we have a lot to cover today. We're going to be talking to you about your work. We're going to be looking at you as the multi-dimensional and multifaceted woman that you are. So, Who is Davina Cole?
Who is Davina Cole? Well, born and raised in the UK, but my parents are both from Sierra Leone. So I think over the years, from obviously being born and growing up within the UK, I've had the influence of the British culture as well as the African culture.
Right.
So that has made me who I am today. It's shown a lot in my work, the sort of work I choose to do, and just basically me as a person. My heritage and the African side of me is very, very important. Yeah.
Okay, so your heritage is important, and this is actually reflective in the kind of work that you take on board. That you actually did a one-woman play that was also done. It was done in the UK and done in the States. All your colors.
Yes, all the colors. Yeah,
all the colors. What is all the colors? And is a one-woman play?
Yes, basically it charts the journey of a lady called Salimatu, who was caught up in the civil war in Sierra Leone in the 90s. And it charts basically her journey from Sierra Leone to the UK and how her and her son fit into society here. Because obviously coming from a country, where you've had a great life and, everything's gone quite well, then all of a sudden, due to the war, you're uplifted from that stable living or that life. And then you have to leave all you know behind to come to the UK. So that's basically what it charts. And even though obviously this occurred in the 90s, we're seeing it a lot today, maybe not coming from Sierra Leone, but from other parts of the world. So on writing it, it looks at immigration, civil war, subjects now, which are, in the news from like Syria to other parts of the world. So I just thought it was an important story. And I felt telling it from a Sierra Leonean woman's point of view, because I'd heard many stories from family members who had to either come here or to the States. I thought it was important to get that story out. Yeah.
Okay. So this story, I mean, like you said, it's actually very relevant for the time that we live in. And it's all this conversation about being displaced, this conversation about. So as a Black woman, let's look at you as a Black woman, as an actress. How does this feature for you trying to manage your acting career, how to manage being a Black woman on stage, a person of color, and dealing with the displacement, the discrimination? How do you deal with that?
The way I see in terms of dealing with it, because when I first came out of drama school many years ago, you come out very, optimistic about or confident about the industry. But I just found as I began to go to auditions, there weren't the sort of roles I wanted to play as a Black woman. So after some years, I just realized it's about us creating our own stuff to tell our own stories. Because the opportunities just weren't out there. That's what I found after being in the industry for quite so many years. Hence why I decided to write my own show. And, I'm looking in the future to write some other plays and just create opportunities, not just for myself, but for others in the, Black or African Caribbean community. Mm-hmm.
So, I really liked, and we had this conversation where we talked about the power of owning your own story. What do you think about the power, behind actually telling those stories that are not regularly seen about telling those hidden stories?
I think it's very important. Like recently, I watched Hidden Figures, and that was something until I watched that film I wasn't aware of, because I think in terms of educating not just the African Caribbean community, but everyone as a whole, in terms of them knowing that there's, black figures who are astronauts or mathematicians, in terms of getting those stories out. So a lot of people don't think, it's the stereotypical view of a black person on TV or theatre. We're successful in different things other than, say, running or being a rapper.
Exactly.
There's business women, there's, very highly educated women and black men out there. So getting these stories out, it's educating not just the community itself, but the world. And another thing, recently I went to see a talk with Viola Davis at the Bassett building in central London.
We love her.
Yeah, and she's just amazing. Yeah, she's just one of my idols. And what she found, like now she's beginning to team up with other peoples within the African American community to tell their stories, because a lot of the stuff she had to do was often watered down. So when we don't own our own sort of production companies, that sort of thing, we're relying on others to allow us to tell these stories, but they can sort of alter it to their liking, if that makes sense. So owning your own stuff, you can tell the story how you wish to tell it, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically from what you're saying, we need to start owning our own narratives. We need to start telling our own stories and actually putting out stories that does not just influence us as the people of color, but actually influences everybody. Now,
Yes,
going back to Hidden Figures. Now, that story being very powerful, there's a lot of people are saying, well, it seems like Hollywood is ready to embrace more diverse range of movies. Do you think that it's really ready to fully embrace more color and diversity if they're still having, issues of, for a better word, appropriation? Because look at the movie with Scarlett Johansson. Like I keep telling people, woman is a brilliant actress, but couldn't they have found an Asian American actress to play the role that she currently is playing in Ghost in the Shell?
And they could have, because I know I've got a lot of friends over in the States, and there are actors of that background who could have easily played that role. See, I think over the years I've noticed it has gotten better, don't get me wrong, but I still feel things are molded into their point of view rather than coming from a truthful, honest perspective, where I feel it would be like that had we had our own sort of like production companies, like someone like Tyler Perry. He's got a lot of control over the stuff he does, and he can tell it from his perspective rather than going to one of those other sort of production companies where they can sort of dictate to you how they want this to run, or cut that out, or let's water this down, and that sometimes changes the whole project completely. So again, I just feel it's important for us to own our own sort of channels of putting out our films, our theatre, so things can be channeled in the correct way and the most honest way in regards to the story.
I like that. And it's really about being able to tell the story honestly and openly in a way that suits us. Now, you mentioned Tyler Perry, and I love him. You mentioned Viola Davis. So is there anybody right now that you will say hand in heart, I want to work with this person because I really love the way they work, their ethic, the movies they bring out? Is there, who's that for you?
Definitely, obviously, I've already mentioned her, Viola Davis, and I do love Angela Bassett. That's another one who I think is a bit of like an unsung hero. I really feel she hasn't got the props in Hollywood that she should have, because she's done a lot of amazing films, and I don't think she has been properly rated as an actress. She's really, really good. And obviously Denzel Washington, he's another one, and again, he's another performer who's basically beginning to create his own stuff, collaborating with other people, because I think it's important to collaborate with others and in bigger numbers, you're stronger together. So Viola was saying how her, Taraji P. Henson, and I think Denzel were basically getting together to create certain things, and there's a lot of things in the pipeline, basically. So watch this space, basically, she said. So
okay,
yeah.
All right, I like that. Now I want to wrap back to a point that you've just mentioned about working together. Now, recently, Samuel L. Jackson came out with a statement that says, "Oh, all the British actors coming over and taking Black American parts, that this shouldn't be the way." And do you think that that conversation is not what we need right now because it's more divisive, or do you think he has a point?
No, I think it's not a good thing. It's taking us back. I mean, in terms of what I just said in regards to us working together, him coming out with that statement, it doesn't involve us working together. Obviously, our struggles are very different to the American experience, but, you know, things are not easy here for ourselves, and it shouldn't be the case of us and them. It should be working together, you know, doing collaborations with our American or Black American counterparts. Him saying something like that just does not help the situation. It just takes us back, you know, and it's all about moving forward, you know.
No, I agree with you. I agree that we need to start looking at it as more holistically, that we do need to work together because we are stronger together. However, you know, on the flip side, if we were to play devil's advocate, you can actually kind of see his point and say, well, there are very limited roles for Black actors in the States already. So bringing in an import of great actors, that's more competition for them. So, you know, on the flip side, you can see his point, but I think, personally speaking, I think that that's the wrong approach, because the more you say, well, we are all here, the more you cannot be ignored. Strength in numbers. Mm-hmm. But from the perspective of looking at it, that if the issue is there's still fewer roles, should it be that should be what should be addressed first within Hollywood before having to address that they're bringing in outside talent?
I don't know, because from an actor's perspective, it's, you know, there's a role there. Who is the right person to play that? Because as an actress here, I can do various accents. You do your research. I think it's just finding the best person for the role. Like, I don't feel it should be, oh, because that person is it's an American role, it should only be paid by an American, a Black American. I don't know. I just don't agree with that. I just feel it's about the best person who they feel will bring that something to that specific role. In terms of sorting out the amount of roles for Black Americans first before that, I don't know, because there's a lot of people like Idris Elba. He's creating his own sort of, like, you know, he's got his own production company. He's creating roles for people there and here. So I don't think it's a case of, oh, they should increase the roles before allowing British people to come over. You know, some American actors, they come over here. They're on the West End stage. But you never hear, like, a British person saying, oh, no, let them not come. You know, it should be an open sort of thing where we can go over there or they can come over here. I don't think there should be this, oh, no, you can't do that, you can't do this. I don't feel that's how the arts has ever worked. Even before my time, before I was even born, you know, it's been a case of, you know, British people going over there or vice versa. Obviously, it's more so the other way at the moment. But yeah, I just feel it's just creating more barriers and more of a divide by saying, oh, no, you can't come here because, or you can't do that because you're not of an American heritage. That's my own personal view. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? I absolutely agree with you, because personally, I think there's more strength in numbers, and the more we work together globally, and, you know, talent is talent wherever it is.
Exactly.
We should look at that first and say, well, how do we exploit our own talent? And when I say exploit, I mean in terms of how do we actually have it work for us and tell those stories that we need to tell. Now, we've just had a question come in for you. And Norman was asking and was wondering, what are some of the film subjects you would like to make or have seen made?
What I'd like to make, in In regards to make, at the moment, I'm trying to write something on the Ebola crisis,
Right.
Which happened in Sierra Leone. So I've started sort of doing a bit of a draft of that, because obviously having family there, and you've heard some harrowing stories, a lot of things which weren't mentioned like in the news.
Right.
So again, I feel that's a story which needs to, obviously the situation has been resolved. However, a lot of families are still feeling the effects of that crisis to today, like having your whole family die and you being the only sole survivor, So I think that's one which I'd like to definitely do. Another thing I'd like to do, which I was actually speaking to my friend about not too long ago, was about female warriors. So to write a piece, again, perhaps similar to All the Colours, like a main female who's quite strong, going through a lot of stuff, but she comes out on the end as a stronger human being. So I've been looking at various like sort of like African warriors throughout, like from years back, and perhaps bring that to the screen. Again, that takes funding and a certain amount of backing, but it's something I'm in the process of looking at the moment. So yeah, so obviously, like with the whole slavery thing, obviously it's important for those sort of films to get out, but I just want to show a film where it shows us in a more stronger, more vocal position, especially from a female perspective, because obviously being a woman myself, you feel like you can put more into either a feature film or a short film of that kind of sort of slant, rather than something where it's like just a male lead character. So those are two things I'm actually looking at the moment in regards to getting stuff out there. And yeah, I'm working on that. So watch this space.
All right, fine. And if you need a female character that you want to pick from history, there's always Queen Amina of Zaria, which a lot of people don't realize that this woman was really amazing at a time when women were hidden in most parts. Or again, I'm biased. So I'm going to go with the Nigerian stories. The women of Abeokuta who actually protested and won rights to vote and all sorts of amazing things. So these are women that existed. So if you want some more,
and a lot of people don't know.
So I think that you have a lot to offer. Now, you're an actress, you're a writer, you do screen and theater. Which would you say is your favorite medium?
Definitely theatre all the way. Definitely. I feel you can express yourself far more, even though I do enjoy film and the TV medium, but theatre, it's just on a different level to do it live and also having that fear. Obviously, it's sort of fear which shouldn't take you over in regards to your performance, but having that, it's hard to explain. Other actors will understand, but yeah, there's nothing which I feel can compare to the whole theatre experience, the journey. Theatre is definitely my first love. I'm theatre trained, and yeah, definitely theatre all the way.
Okay, so theatre is your first love, and then comes writing.
Yeah, and the writing, afterwards, and obviously like TV and film.
Okay. Now, speaking of film, there is a movie coming out very soon, the Black Panther movie, which is literally a black superhero. And I think this goes back to that whole conversation about telling our own stories. We need more black superheroes. We need to have more of that discussion. What do you think of that movie coming out? Hello, can you hear me?
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, it cut off a little bit. Can you repeat that again?
Yes, I was talking about the Black Panther movie being that coming out as the next installment in the superheroes that we're having, but it's mainly a black cast. I think this is something that we have to celebrate.
I think that's very good, especially for the younger generation. Growing up, like I used to watch, like Superman, Supergirl, but there was no one out there who looked like me. So it would be good to, like have my godsons and my nieces and nephews to have someone to look up and say, yeah, that person's a superhero and they look like me. So I think it's a really, really good thing for the, the younger generation, those coming up now, for them to see that,
I agree. And I think more and more we'll get to a situation where our own characters are being created into superheroes and we are telling those superhero stories. And I think the more we have that, the better it is. And, at the same time, we want to look back and look at those movies that were from that era of making those slave movies that consistently won major awards like the Oscars and things like that. But this year we had a break in that trend, and
Yes,
we had Moonlight and we had Hidden Figures pull some amazing numbers in the box office. We had the whole Oscar So White saga and the we won't call it the name gate situation, but it did happen.
Yes, it did. Oh. But yeah, I'm obviously not taking anything away from 12 Years a Slave, films which have won, which are slavery based in their subject matter. But it was very refreshing to see a film win which was not that subject matter, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's just very enlightening, just to see that, just something different, and a black film for it to have won best film. That was, it was a great night. And obviously you had the whole mix up of the name and everything, which, but still they won, which was amazing.
That was the fun part. There was a name mix up, but they still won. Let's put this out there.
Exactly. That was the main thing.
All right. So now on the show, we have our So Loud moments where we pick something that we want to celebrate. So, Davina Cole, what's your So Loud moment for the week?
My show I'm going to be in, which I start filming this weekend, TV Footballers. I would like to mention that, because that's like a big thing for me, and it's going to be on Sky 182.
Okay, what is TV Footballers?
Well, I am in season 3. We're about to commence filming on season 3, and basically it shows the dark side of football. So anything from drugs, the whole women cheating and sex. It just, it shows the side of football that we often maybe hear about but don't see. But it really gets into the depths of the dark side of football. So.
Okay, so it's exploring all the areas, the seedier side of the fame and the glory that comes from football.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you start filming. You're in series 3, and when does it go live?
I don't have a day as of yet, but we should have one soon. But we're filming episodes 1 and 2 this weekend. Okay. So later on I should have an exact date of when we should be premiering it. So as soon as I get that date, I will get that out back to you and your viewers.
Okay, we're looking forward to that because it will be fun to catch up once filming is done with you and your crew. Definitely,
yeah. It's a really, really great cast. Different characters. The character I'm playing is completely different to what I usually play. She's very fun and I don't want to say too much, but she's very different to the usual characters I play. My character. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're looking forward to catching it on TV and then catching up with you after it goes live. Now, we've talked about your work. We've talked about the kind of shows that you want to make and what you want to produce. Now, let's go back. Let's dial back a bit and let's say what inspired you to get into acting in the first place?
I think from a young age, I've always wanted to perform. So say on a Saturday afternoon, you're watching various programs, especially like programs from the States. Like I love watching The Cosby Show and there's various black and white programs as well. And you often find yourself as a child dreaming of, being in that film. And like I'm a child of the 80s. And I used to watch stuff from like Karate Kid to The Lost Boys, all those movies, The Goonies, those typical sort of movies, and that sort of made you excited. But coming from an African background, parents are both from Sierra Leone, obviously they want to, push you down that sort of academic route, which looking back at it at this age now, I don't feel was a bad thing. So initially I did a degree. I did a 3-year degree initially. But then the whole wanting to still get into the performing arts side of things, I still wanted to do into my like 20s.
Right.
So that's when I eventually went to drama school, and I did a 1-year postgraduate degree at drama school, Mount View. So yeah, as I said, it's always been there, but it was sort of had to be pushed to the side for a while until I completed like my business degree. But I was always, whether it was at college or university, getting involved in some form of sort of like performance, and it was there. Like people could see like this girl, she loves performing. So, and then, when I was old enough and had my own money, because obviously drama school is quite expensive, I thought, no, this is what I want to do. This is my passion. This is what makes me happy. And especially like within the theatre, I really wanted to make this into a day job,
Okay. Now, you raised a very, very good point. Now, you raised the fact that you have African parents.
Yes.
And I can imagine the conversation that took place with said African parents and said, parents, I want to get into acting. Please tell us what your response was.
Well, initially, when I was, just before I was going to secondary school, a friend of mine who was also like into the acting, the music, she wanted to go to Sylvia Young. Now, Sylvia Young was very expensive at the time. This friend who I'm referring to, she had more funds, more than I, to go. And then you go and ask your parents, look, I want to go to Sylvia Young. It's X amount of money. And they were like, what? No, can't afford that. And, you've got to go to this school that your cousins went to, because all me and my cousins and even my brother in the end, who's younger than me, we all went to the same school in Southeast London. So, it was just a sort of thing where, one, money, because that tends to, even up until today, cut a lot of people from working class backgrounds from going on to study acting, because it's very expensive. And then, so that coupled with, the African parents saying, no, they want you to maybe be a businessman or a doctor or a lawyer. Because even at one point, that was what I was, when I was a bit younger, I was being steered in that direction. But I don't know, when it's, every actor will know this, or actress will know this. Once it's in you, it's in you. Like, you try and resist it, but if that's what you want to do and that's in your hearts of heart that you want to do that, you end up doing it. And that was the case with me. So obviously I went off, did my business degree initially. I worked in HR for a while, but the acting was always calling me, especially the stage. Yeah.
Oh, I can still imagine. I can really imagine what that conversation would have looked like. But but you've actually brought up something. It's your passion. It's something you wanted, and you actually chose a path and said, "I'm going to follow this, come what may."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So based on your journey so far, what would you do differently if you could go back in time? What would you do differently?
Again, I think a lot of the things which I would have done differently, hence going to drama school maybe when I was a little bit younger, involves money. So, I think maybe going a little bit younger, but then on the flip side, I think it's good going to drama school with some life experience. So I could say, it would have been greater to go younger. Then you would have had more time, because obviously this industry is very fast moving and, but on the flip side, I'm glad that I have gone in with some experience, because a lot of the things I've been through as a Black young lady has been contributed to the roles I've played, and even in terms of my writing as well. I feel the way I'm writing now, I would have been writing the same way, say, 10 years ago.
Right.
So, it's a bit like sometimes I think, I wish I'd gone when I was 18 and da-da-da. But then another voice in my head says, no, Davina, you're able to bring all this life experience to all your roles. You probably wouldn't have added as much substance or as much depth to certain roles had you been younger. Because actually a drama teacher said to me, she, when I initially started drama school, that she prefers people with a bit more life experience. Nothing against younger actors. They're all amazing. But sometimes when you've experienced certain things, you've got a lot more to bring to the role, where if you haven't experienced much in life, it can be a bit hard. I'm not saying it's impossible, but, life experience is very good in this, in this game or this field. Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's an incredible answer, and the fact that you know yourself, that you've brought something from all your experiences into your acting role is actually really amazing. Now, we've had one more question come through that goes, while you're working in the corporate world, how were you able to maintain goals of acting?
Tricky. Now, whilst I was working in the corporate world, I was predominantly a contractor. So that allowed me obviously to like have that balance of, taking a short-term contract and, a couple of months of basically maybe doing a theatre show or filming project. Very tricky. Like sometimes obviously you have to sell a few porkies. I'm not going to lie. A few dentist appointments or doctor's appointments to go to that audition. Oh, I'm not feeling well. Oh gosh, I hope none of my ex-bosses are listening in today. But, all actors know the game, and I'm sure some of them probably thought, oh yeah, she's an actress. But I was always honest at the beginning saying, look, my first love is this. Obviously I'm going to try and give you as much, 100% of my time as much as I can, because whatever I do, whether it be acting or whether it was like my corporate work, I like to give my all and do a good job. So I didn't sort of look at it like, oh, that's just my temping job. Oh, it's second rate. Obviously it's not my passion.
Right.
But, you want to like afterwards get a good reference and, they're paying you. So you want to give, you want to do a good job basically.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was difficult. But obviously I couldn't take like a permanent job, because obviously with a permanent job comes a whole lot more of responsibilities. So doing like short-term contracts, and also with that, when you're doing a contract or temping, you can leave a lot quicker. Like say if an acting job for how many months did come through, you can say, got my week's notice, they can find someone else. So that's basically how I balanced it. Wasn't easy, but that's the way I managed to cope, and how a lot of other actors I know cope in regards to balancing the two.
Well, that's a good strategy. And I think that's where we met in 2008.
Yes, we
did. We won't say where, but that's how we.
Yeah, of course. My lips are sealed. Place. Yeah.
Now I've had a couple of other questions come through for you. Now, okay. I have a question from Daniel that's coming to us via WhatsApp that says, there's this belief that Black British actors may not fully understand the difficulties of interracial dating experience by African Americans, and they want to know, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't think that's true. Not at all. Like, growing up, again, I don't want to give away my age, but a child of the 80s/90s, maybe it's a bit more acceptable now, but I've heard a lot of stories. Like, I myself have never dated outside my race, but I have nothing against it. I have family members, even my own brother, his partner is Caucasian, but all of them have mentioned certain things, or maybe they've been to certain places where you have certain comments. It's not easy plain sailing. I think like in terms of what Samuel Jackson mentioned in regards to the whole Get Out thing, he sort of implied that, again, we don't understand their experience because, there's been interracial dating here for a lot longer, and it seems to be a lot more plain sailing. But I don't think that's the case. In terms of my, not my own experience, but experiences of others, they've told me it hasn't been that easy. I've got like one cousin who's married to an Asian lady. Everyone, they've all had their sort of like obstacles along the way. It's not as plain sailing as I know some Americans may feel. Obviously, it's probably more prevalent over here, but again, I still feel we have lots of obstacles. It's not easy and plain sailing like a lot of people make out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Daniel, I hope that answers your question. Now, here's my other question. You spoke about obstacles, and my question is really this. As an actress, you're on stage, you have to be bearing your soul and vulnerable. And invariably, sometimes you get turned down for roles and rejected. How do you deal with the rejection, the failure? How do you pick yourself back up and put yourself back out there?
Okay, so initially when I came out of drama school, you sort of, obviously you're eager, you're new to the industry. And when you begin to get those rejections, initially we'll, take it to heart. But after years of going to various auditions, you get some, you don't get some, maybe you're not right for the role. I basically have the whole thing of like, even this morning, I went to an audition before this interview, and I go in there, do as best as I can, come out, and I try and push it to one side. Because otherwise, if I fester, I could have done it this way or whatever, it doesn't do anything. You know, if that role was meant for me, I'm not saying, well, don't go to church all the time, but I am, you know, religious. So I always say to myself, if God meant me to get that role will come to me. If I don't get it, it just wasn't meant for me. Because sometimes it's not even about your performance or anything like that. It's just that you weren't what they were envisioned, like they didn't vision you as that character. So I just put it as long as I've done a good job, you know, try my best, prepared well for the audition, gone in there, done my bit. That's all I can do. Fester on it doesn't get you anywhere. That's the way I've seen. Yeah, I think that's the best way to sort of see every audition and every role you get. And then if you don't get it, that role wasn't for me. I wasn't for that part, you know. So like I went for an audition last year for Chewing Gum.
Okay.
And it was to play like this butch lesbian lady. And when I went in, there was a lot of people there who I felt like I could even tell, even before I went in there, even though I went in there, did my best, but there was a lot of people who were more physically, you know, better suited to the character. Where looking at myself, I was just like, oh, why was I sent to this audition sort of thing? So that's just one example. So a lot of the time with these auditions, sometimes even before you've opened your mouth, they know what they want, these casting directors. So as long as you've done your best, don't fester on it, move on, create your own stuff, like I've said, and just go on to the next sort of project. That's the best way I feel in dealing with this. Otherwise, you know, you're not going to last very long in this industry. You'll just get depressed.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I think it's not just for your industry. I think the way you deal with things work in any industry. It's transferable. So
exactly.
Right there. And I'm sorry, I just had to giggle at the sight of you trying to play a... Yeah, I know. I've known you for a while.
I know. Everyone who I mentioned it to, they were like, no, Davina. But I was just like, at least I got in the room with the casting director. So... you know, who knows? There might be something else better suited for me.
Exactly. Maybe he might remember you. You know, her. Yes, her.
Exactly. I know. So, but yeah, just move on. That's what I say. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have more questions for you, and another question coming in goes. So, as an actress, a writer, what do you watch on TV?
Oh gosh, I've watched loads of stuff. How to Get Away with Murder, Scandal. I have to admit, this is very embarrassing, but I do watch a few soaps. Again, I would say it's for research and a little bit of pleasure.
Yes,
but
yeah,
who knows? If I get called for a soap, I do watch, you know, a little bit of EastEnders on Coronation Street when I can. But yeah, I do like, as I said, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder. I do watch Empire, a lot of American stuff. I think a lot of us obviously do end up watching. But yeah, definitely my girl Viola Davis, just love her. And Kerry Washington, really, really good. And Taraji P. Henson, very inspirational ladies. Mm-hmm.
I love all of those ladies, and I love characters that they play. Now, you've mentioned Scandal and Empire. So my question, and this is really my question, again, is the narratives that are being played out, is they seem to be that particular type of narrative. With Scandal, it's different because it's still, she's a very powerful woman, but it's still her having an affair. If we want to put it in plain terms, she's a president's side chick.
Yeah, I know. I've had this conversation.
If you want to look at Empire, it's a destructive family cycle, and there's drugs, it's seedy, it's not successful. I mean, it's like somebody looked at, the Cosby Show and go, no, we've already had that. We can't do that anymore. Where do you stand on this?
I don't agree with, we've had the Cosby Show, we can't do it again. We can still have, I used to watch back in the day, My Wife and Kids. I don't know.
I love My Wife and Kids.
Exactly. I still watch the rerun. So we can still have that. And I do understand, Scandal, her being the side chick, and, Empire, maybe, bringing out that whole sort of black stereotyping. But yeah, I think we can still have those things, but obviously it's important to have roles like The Cosby Show, My Wife and Kids. We do need more of that. I don't think it's, oh, we've had that back then, we can't have it again. I think we need a variety. I just don't feel it should all just be the whole stereotypical sort of, you know, even though I do love Empire, the cookie character and everything, but I still feel we can have that, but we also need to have positive roles as well in regards to, you know, like The Cosby Show, The Man's a Doctor, still having those, because obviously, you know, youngsters, they're watching it and they need to know it's not just this type of thing you can be, you know.
No,
There's
I agree
also,
with you.
You know, so I think you can show both on TV. Yeah, both.
And for one of better words, someone just said that Empire is the equivalent of Black Dallas, so we can look at it that way.
Exactly. Oh, I used to watch Dynasty. Yeah, Dallas or Dynasty. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so now, like I said, we know you are very talented and you have so many facets to you. Where do you prefer? Do you prefer to be in front of the camera, behind the camera? Where do you see yourself more?
I think in front. However, I'd like to do more of being behind the camera as well. Obviously, as I said, theatre, my greatest sort of, you know, passion out of all the different mediums of entertainment. But yeah, I'd like to do more of like the whole curating, you know, in regards to, you know, films, other theatre shows. As I said, I just feel it's very important to create not just for yourself, but for others within your community. So yeah, my love is in front, but I want to do more behind to help and give back.
I like that. And if there was a message that you could give your 18-year-old version of yourself who was just starting in this industry, what's the one message that you would give her?
Don't be scared. Yeah. And I'll explain that. I think a lot of like things I've gone for, and sometimes fear can cripple you because obviously you're young, you know, you're not very worldly. When I was 18, I was probably a bit, you know, sort of a bit sheltered in regards to my upbringing and everything. So when you're going out there's certain things I feel like I didn't go for.
Right.
Because, you know, the fear takes hold. You know, you're young.
Of course.
So if I was to go back, I'll be like, don't be scared. Just be confident. You can do this. That would be my advice for my younger self. Like certain things now, like we all get nervous in various things, but I think there's certain things I look back and think, why was I so nervous? You know, I had it, you know, I had the talent, not bigging myself up, but, you know, you were trained, you know, you can do this, you had the talent, so I should have gone for it, but I didn't, you know. So that's what I would say to my younger self. Don't be scared. That comes to mind initially when you ask that question.
Okay, I like that. I like don't be scared because it, again, is not just for you. I think that actually applies to a lot of us who are stepping out into the unknown, and sometimes fear stops us from ever starting, let alone failing. But, you know, and you've talked about failure. You talked that it happens and not to take it to heart and not to allow it to fester. But maybe the most important thing you said right now is that don't be scared and actually taking that risk.
And also I would say embrace it, because I think with every performance, even not just with acting, like when you go on stage, like I've heard of like some of the greatest actors even vomiting before they go on stage, but giving an amazing sort of Oscar-winning performance on stage. But you have to know how to take that fear and put it into your performance, whether it's a job interview or, you know, a performance on stage. Take that fear, own it, and do your best.
Oh, I like this. I am so looking forward to interviewing you again when when TV footballers are out, and you know, I'm looking forward to sitting down with you in person because we're actually doing this remotely. Don't you just love technology?
I know. Oh.
You know, so I have had fun. I've just looked at the time. We have 15 minutes, so we'll see if we have any more questions coming in. But now, where do you see yourself 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, as an actress, as a writer, as a screenwriter, as a producer, what kind of genres of movies would you have want to have produced?
I would say in 10, 15 years' time, I would like to, as I was mentioning to you before, have my own production company so I can get like my own sort of like films out, maybe collaborating with other fellow actors and actresses in creating like our own sort of like production company.
Right.
I would have liked to have maybe done a few more like short films, my own.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, obviously, it takes a lot of funding and whatnot to do my own feature in the future, in whether it be 10 to 15 years time. I want to do a variety. Like I would like to do. Obviously, you want to do the serious stuff, get certain stories out, but also a bit of comedy. So not just be one dimensional in terms of the stories which are out there. So a bit of light entertainment in terms of like comedy, thriller. And then obviously true life stories, like in regards to sort of like African warriors, like I mentioned before.
Yes.
I don't want to just be limited to just basically one. I just want like a variety of stuff, which, again, gives back to the community, creates jobs, because it's hard as an actor. Whether you're an actor or not, this game is not easy,
Yep.
So nowadays it's about curating, and there's so many mediums. You've got online, there's web series, there's just so many more mediums than there was, say, like 10, 15 years ago. So I feel now the ability to create your own stuff I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier because there's more mediums in regards to getting your work out there. So things are more possible. It takes a lot of hard work, but getting your own stuff out there, there's more mediums and more routes, should I say, in terms of, promoting your stuff, even with social media, in terms of promoting your own stuff, like footballers, we've been promoting that. And say 10, 15 years ago, would we have be able to promote it in the same way? No.
No.
So,
okay.
Yeah, and that's it.
All right, great. And now this is the question. We've touched on, British actors in America. We've touched on British actors going over and doing great roles in the United States. Do you think that the film community in the UK is doing enough to support its own local black actors or actors of color? Or do you think that you're going to have to follow the footsteps of the greats and actually have to leave the country to actually get the success that you're looking for?
Now, for many years, things have not been very good here. However, I do feel now that things are changing. It's not exactly where we want it to be. There's this whole push for diversity, both on screen and on stage. And I have noticed in the sort of roles like my agent sends me for, or roles I source myself, there is more, but there's still a way to go. So they are trying, but obviously I know in America they'll say, oh, there's not that many roles for them, but the variety and the types of roles they have is a whole lot better than what we have here still. But things are getting better. I actually had a conversation with one of my friends who moved to the States.
Right.
She was living there for like 2 or 3 years. Before she left, things weren't good here. But now she's come back and she started off her own sort of like company. And I'd like to mention that, if that's okay, a bit of a plug, Next Up Talent, Candace Kane and Elizabeth Alabi.
Okay.
So they've started their own sort of company. And she says things have changed. Like, she's not saying, oh, it's just perfect. The industry is always going to be hard. But from that sort of 2-3 years, she's been out of the game here. So in terms of like, she was meeting with like Sky, certain people like within the industry to sort of get this production company up and running. She's seen a marked difference in what it was like when she left 3 years ago to now. So people are still plugging and pushing, but more opportunities are being created, but we need to push for more. So, yeah, I think that's where we are now. Things are getting better, but we still have a way to go.
Okay. Well, I think that, you have brought some really interesting perspective on this, and I think that there are a lot of actors who, yes, have taken that route and gone outside of the UK and have actually had some really great successes. But I think the more we recognize that, the more we create opportunities of our own, you can actually work anywhere and be a success.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we have come to the end of the show. Now,
Fast.
I know. So tell us, how can people find you, get hold of you on social media? How can we find you and connect with you?
I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter and Facebook. So I'm on all three. I'm not on the Snapchat. I know a lot of people are on that, but I'm on three of the others.
Okay.
So I'm on, I think Twitter, it's Cole Davs, and then Instagram, it's Davs Coles. I know, don't ask me why I did it that way. I sort of swapped them around, but that's how you can find me. So just look for Dav. As soon as you type in Davs, my name should come up, or Cole. I'll come up on either one. And then on Facebook, I'm just literally just my name's Davina Cole.
Okay, so Cole Davs on Twitter is at Cole Davs, so that's ColeDavs.
That's correct, yeah.
And they can find you there. And you have all of these stuff coming out and all of your other plays. But the one thing that we haven't mentioned is that you were actually nominated and you've actually won a few things.
Yes, I went to the States. I was in the Los Angeles Women's Theatre Festival in 2015. So I won an award there. And yeah, I've been nominated. Well, actually, a film I did last year has been nominated and won an award last year for Ken Loach. I don't know if a lot of your listeners have heard of Ken Loach, but he's a famous director, producer. And we won an award for the anti-modern day slavery award, where Ken was one of the he was one of the judges for this award. So we won an award there, and we've been nominated for another award, the Wendy Short Film Award in the US. So hope to hear back on that. So it's winning basically and being nominated for various awards. It's a film called Visitors. Okay. And it's looking at this girl who was taken from Africa, basically brought over here on the pretense of, she's going to have a better life. But really, it's into sort of like sex, sort of like slavery. And it's not a good life, the good life she was promised. So it was a subject I was very passionate about. So taking on that role, it's just something which I definitely wanted to get involved with. And it's, it's winning awards and it's putting out the message there, making people more aware that, even though they'll say slavery ended how many years ago, but modern day slavery is happening today. And not even just within the Black community, in other communities as well. So it was something like when I read the script, I was just like, I have to be involved in this. So, hopefully all the colours will win even more awards.
Yes.
And so I'm looking, I will give you the dates to tour it within the UK, hopefully take it to Edinburgh. And bigger and better things for all the colours. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? We have to say this. I mean, winning that Best International Issue piece for all the colours is actually really amazing, and I think that actually deserves a little clap. And I think we need to have that clapped out.
Oh, thank you.
Davina, you know what? Thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you create next, what you're in next, and when All Your Colors is actually touring.
Thank you. Yeah, I shall get those dates out as soon as I get them. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And for everyone, if you've missed most of the show, you can catch the replay. You can catch the replay at Spreaker.com or on our website, shineout.tv. And if you want to catch us, you know where to find us at #ShineOutShow on Twitter. We're on Instagram as well and on Facebook. So just reach out to us and connect with us. We'll love to hear what you thought of the show. And we have a surprise for you. In the very beginning of the season, we had the amazing Eamon Barati on the show, and we had some frightful tech demons that day, and we could not do the show with Eamon. Now, I happened to catch up with the man in London this week, and his show, we had a quick catch-up conversation, and I'll be sharing that with all of you pretty soon. So watch the website and our social media for the links for that. And one more time, I'm going to say a great heartfelt thank you to Davina Cole for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right, so this has been fun, people. Let's do it again next week.
You've been listening to the Shine Out Loud Show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Shine Out Show.